The love between mom and dad, a story of sacrifice, silence, and family in a small town. There lived a family of four, a father named Rashid, a mother named Sana, and their two children, Ali and Aisha. From the outside, they looked like an ordinary family. They lived in a modest house with old furniture, a tiny kitchen, and a roof that leaked during heavy rain. But inside that house lived something very rare, a love that didn't need grand words, expensive gifts, or public displays. It was the quiet, powerful love between a mom and a dad who gave everything for their family. Rashid worked as a bus driver. Every morning before the sun even rose, he would wake up, wash his face with cold water, offer prayer, and quietly get ready for work. His uniform was always neatly ironed, not because he had time to do it, but because Sana made sure of it every single night. Sana was a housewife. Her day started even earlier than Rashid's. She would wake up in the dark, prepare tea, knead dough, make breakfast, pack Rashid's lunch, and then wake the children for school. She rarely sat down. If she wasn't cooking, she was cleaning. If she wasn't cleaning, she was stitching old clothes, helping the children with homework, or planning how to make 1 week's groceries last 10 days. They were not rich. In fact, they often struggled. But Rashid and Sana had one promise between them: their children would never feel the weight of their problems. One evening, Ali came home from school looking upset. "What happened?" Sana asked while serving him lentils and rice. Ali pushed the plate away and said, "Everyone in class has a new school bag. Mine is torn. They laughed at me." Sana looked at the bag. It had been stitched so many times that it barely held together. That night after the children slept, Rashid came home tired. His shoulders ached and his face looked older than his age. Sana handed him tea and quietly told him what happened. Rashid listened silently. He looked toward the room where Ali was sleeping. Then he opened his wallet. There were only a few notes inside. "This money is for the electricity bill," Sana said softly. Rashid nodded. "I know. Then how will we buy the bag?" Rashid was quiet for a moment, then smiled faintly. "I'll do an extra shift tomorrow." Sana looked at him with worry. "You're already exhausted." "And Ali is already hurt," Rashid replied. The next day, Rashid worked nearly 16 hours. By the time he came home, his eyes were red with tiredness, and his hands trembled from holding the steering wheel for so long. But in his hand was a bright blue school bag. When Ali saw it, his face lit up like the sky after rain. "Abu, is this for me?" Rashid smiled and nodded. Ali hugged him tightly. "Thank you." Sana stood in the kitchen doorway, watching silently. She knew what that school bag had cost him. Not just money, strength, sleep, and pain. A few weeks later, it was Sana who made a sacrifice. Aisha had a school function coming up, and she needed a white dress. Rashid had already spent most of his salary on rent, school fees, and groceries. There was no money left. That night, Sana opened a small metal box hidden in her cupboard. Inside were her wedding bangles, the only gold jewelry she owned, given to her by her mother on her wedding day. She touched them gently, remembering the day she wore them as a bride. Then she wrapped them in a cloth and went to the market the next morning. When she returned home, she had enough money for Aisha's dress, some groceries, and medicine for Rashid's back pain. Rashid noticed the missing bangles that evening. "Sana, where are your bangles?" She kept folding clothes and said casually, "I sold them." Rashid stared at her. "You sold your wedding bangles?" "They were just gold," she said. "They were your memory." Sana looked at him and smiled softly. "My real memory is this house, you, and our children." Rashid's eyes filled with tears, but he quickly looked away. That was how their love was, not loud, not dramatic, but deep enough to carry a family through every storm. Years passed. The children grew older. Ali went to college. Aisha entered high school. Expenses grew bigger and life became harder. Rashid's hair turned gray. Sana's hands became rough from years of work. Their faces aged, but their habits never changed. Every morning, Sana still made Rashid's tea exactly the way he liked it, strong with little sugar. Every evening, Rashid still brought her something small from the market, sometimes guavas, sometimes her favorite biscuits, and sometimes just a flower picked from the roadside. They rarely said, "I love you." They didn't need to. Love was in the lunchbox Sana packed. Love was in the medicine Rashid brought without being asked. Love was in the way Sana waited at the door whenever he came home late. Love was in the way Rashid never ate dinner until she sat beside him. One winter, Rashid fell sick. At first it seemed like a simple fever, but within days his condition worsened. He became weak and the doctor said he needed rest and treatment. For the first time in years, Rashid could not go to work. The house changed overnight. Money stopped coming in. Bills piled up. The children tried to help, but they were still studying. Sana became the pillar of the house. She started sewing clothes for neighbors, making pickles to sell, and even cleaning houses nearby to earn extra money. During the day, she worked non-stop. At night, she sat beside Rashid, placing a wet cloth on his forehead, feeding him soup and giving him medicine. One night, Rashid looked at her and said weakly, "I'm sorry." Sana frowned. "For what?" "For becoming a burden." Sana's eyes instantly filled with tears. "Don't ever say that again." "But look at you," he said. "You work all day and still you take care of me. I can't even stand on my feet." Sana held his hand and said, "For years you carried this family on your shoulders. Now it's my turn. Husband and wife are not two people walking alone. They are two hands of the same body. If one hand gets hurt, the other works harder." Rashid cried quietly that night, not because of pain, but because he realized how blessed he was. Months later, with treatment and care, Rashid slowly recovered. He was not as strong as before, but he was alive, and that was enough. Ali, watching all of this, changed deeply. He had once been embarrassed by his father's old clothes and his mother's simple lifestyle. He had once wished for a richer family, a bigger house, a better life. But seeing his mother sell her jewelry, seeing his father work through pain, seeing them stand by each other through sickness and struggle, he understood something he had never understood before. His parents were not poor. They were the richest people he knew, rich in patience, rich in sacrifice, rich in love. One day, Ali received a scholarship to study engineering in another city. The whole family celebrated. Rashid bought sweets. Sana cooked Ali's favorite meal. But that night, Ali couldn't sleep. He looked at his parents sitting in the courtyard under a dim yellow bulb. Sana was mending one of Rashid's shirts, and Rashid was telling her about a funny passenger he once had on the bus. They were laughing quietly like two old friends who had survived 100 battles together. Ali suddenly felt tears in his eyes. The next morning, before leaving for college, he bent down and kissed both of their hands. "Ami Abu, one day I will give you everything you never had." Rashid smiled and placed a hand on his head. "Just become a good man, that is enough." Sana hugged him and whispered, "And never forget where your strength came from." Ali didn't forget. He studied day and night. He worked part-time. He saved every rupee. Years later, he got a good job in a big company. Aisha also became a teacher. Slowly, the family's life changed. The leaking roof was repaired. The old furniture was replaced. Rashid no longer had to drive buses. Sana no longer had to stitch clothes late into the night. One evening, Ali came home with a small velvet box. "Ami," he said, smiling, "close your eyes." Sana laughed. "What is this now?" "Just close them." She did. Ali opened the box and placed a pair of gold bangles in her hands. She opened her eyes and froze. They looked almost exactly like the ones she had sold years ago. Sana's lips trembled. "Ali, you sold yours for us," he said, tears in his eyes. "These can never repay that. But I wanted you to have them again." Sana started crying. Rashid, standing nearby, wiped his eyes quietly. Then Ali turned to his father and handed him a small envelope. "What's this?" Rashid asked. "The papers to the new house." Rashid looked confused. "What house?" The one in your name, Ali said. A house with a garden for Ammi, a big window where you can sit and drink tea, and no leaking roof. For a moment no one spoke. Then Rashid sat down slowly, overcome with emotion. All our lives, he said in a trembling voice, we only prayed that our children would stand on their own feet. We never dreamed of this. Ali knelt before them. You gave us everything before you even had enough for yourselves. You hid your hunger, your pain, your tears, just so we could smile. Whatever I do for you will always be less. That night the family ate dinner together, just like old times. Only now there was more food on the table, brighter light in the room, and peace in their hearts. Later, Ali stood in the doorway and watched his parents talking softly. Sana was wearing her new bangles. Rashid was smiling at her the same way he must have smiled years ago when they were newly married. And Ali realized something beautiful. The strongest love stories are not always between kings and queens, or in movies, or in books. Sometimes the greatest love story is between a tired father and a selfless mother, a man who worked until his body gave up, a woman who sold her memories to protect her children. Two people who had very little but still gave everything. And because of them, their children learned what love truly means. Not words, not gifts, not perfection, but sacrifice, loyalty, patience, and standing beside each other when life becomes hard. That is the love between a mom and dad. And that kind of love can build an entire world.